All right, we're here in scenic Teterboro, New Jersey, in the middle of some kind of warehouse district a couple of minutes from the Jersey Turnpike. Why? Because behind me is Sun Noodle, the best ramen maker in America, bar none. Started in Hawaii 30 years ago, opened in LA after that. This is their East Coast division, and they sell the best fresh ramen to the best ramen places in New York City. We're kind of going through a ramen renaissance. When I say ramen, what do you think? 99-cent, boil in a cup, microwavable stuff? Well, that's one element of ramen for sure. This has nothing to do with that. Bespoke, custom-made noodles. These guys are like the noodle evangelists. We learn all about ramen today. That's what's on the menu, Ramen 101. Jersey, Manhattan, and Brooklyn. And airplanes. I'm Mike Colameco, industry insider. Been in the business my whole life, and I know what it takes to succeed. Each week we'll take you into real kitchens, filmed in real time. Backstage passes to a day in the life of chefs, restaurateurs, and their teams. The competition's fierce. Careers, life savings, and reputations hang in the balance. These are my people, and this is their passion. And that's what's next on Mike Colameco's Real Food. New York's in the midst of a ramen revolution with some seriously talented chefs embracing a modern style, using local ingredients to build layers upon layers of flavor around a bespoke, custom-designed noodle program. Well, well, well. A $12 meal that's delicious? Aren't we lucky?
Here in the United States, I like to say it was kind of a reverse import. The first aspect of ramen to land in the States was the instant type in 1971. Prior to that, it was actually developed in 1958 in Japan. But for 50 years or so, Japan already had the more sophisticated bowl of, hearty soup with the noodles. Sun Noodle was founded 30 years ago in Honolulu by a second-generation noodle maker, the Uki family. And today, here in New Jersey, the third-generation Kenshiro is managing the East Coast production. Basically, from ground up, it was a family that didn't speak any English, but they shared the passion of noodle, and through noodles, that was their language of love.
Some companies would customize by whether it's thick or thin or wavy, or the portion size, but we're taking it one step further. We're going to create different recipes. The flour is different from here in Japan, and so we have to work with the flour that we have available, and then the water that's available, and the other ingredients that are available. Usually it'll take about 10 to 15 tries for them to say, okay, this is what I really wanted.
He's got a recipe book.
Exactly.
For every client, you've got a book here that tells you this is what I want for my thing. This is crazy. Who knew?
Ramen was an imported product from China. And around mid-1600s, there was a, imperial court entourage that went to China. And for the first time in Japanese history, they tried a bowl of noodle and soup. Right? And we think it's to be so normal and natural now, but that was the first time, basically 1665. And they took a liking to it and they brought it back. And basically only the imperial aristocracy were able to have what we call ramen today. And fast forward about 200 years, mid-1800s to around early 1900s, this Renaissance period, if you will. They started opening up Chinatowns and various other pockets of foreigners being able to come into Japan. And in that Chinatown, there's this restaurant called Dairaiken, developed in 1910. And they are credited for being the first ramen store in Japan.
And what city was that in?
In Yokohama.
Okay.
So this machine behind us is our reverse osmosis machine.
Reverse osmosis.
And what we're trying to do is purify the water. New Jersey water is notorious for having a lot of minerals and impurities. This particular type of noodle was very famous in the Mongolian area. And there's a lake in Mongolia that has this exact same mineral content, this consui content. And we're just trying to replicate that. We're just going way, way, way back.
We're here in Teterboro, New Jersey with $500,000 worth of stuff to try and make water like a lake in Mongolia.
Yeah.
For noodles. Yeah, okay, I like it.
We're able to create the smallest dough balls. These dough balls are really the core in the end product. If we're messing up here, things aren't as good way down the road.
Correct.
So Mike, here we're having the dough balls going through these giant pressers and creating sheets for our noodles. This is what we call mentai. So we'll just sheet this very simply like this, and then we'll rest it for about 45 minutes. We call it jukse, which is aging the the gluten. So that
Right, let
it's
the
gonna
gluten
be-
relax so it comes,
Exactly.
it stretches out, then it goes back again.
Yes.
Same way you work, same way that when the French do puff pastry and all those doughs that are laminate doughs, same idea. Work it, let it rest, work it, let it rest, work it, let it rest.
And what you see here, you see multiple compound presses. This is also what separates a lot of the premium noodle makers from the more commodity, is how gentle we press according to each phase of the step. And after the fourth time, these gears are all calibrated so that we're able to just cut, and we'll have noodles ready to go. We'll age them for about another day until they're perfect for our customers to use. I always tell people that this is our 2013 Ferrari California. It doesn't get any better than this.
This is the newest, fastest, coolest, brightest, shiniest, the most dope noodle machine here.
With all the specs, with all the specifications that we've geared towards to put into place, this is really a one of a kind.
Well, I'm probably never going to see that Ferrari, but I can see this.
I can taste it too.
I can taste it, that's true.
You notice right here we have our quality control shelving.
So this is everything that you made today in small batches that you
Right,
keep?
in smaller batches. Basically, we also want to see how it ages, because some of our noodles we age for 1 day, some for 3 days, depending on the texture, the size, the gauge, and all these little nuances play a huge part, in our end product, and that's what we pride ourselves on.
Noodles is one part of the bowl. So if we can improve on our noodles, that end customer is going to have a better experience with that full ramen.
Gotta love it. Wow, okay, Xanadu. Wasn't Trump involved in this at one point? Folks, it's no secret that I live in Cape May, New Jersey and Manhattan, back and forth every week, and I love it. The beach and the city, the best of both worlds. But let's face it, there are some parts of Jersey that are just plain old butt ugly and live up to the Jersey jokes. And this horrid strip of Route 1 and 9, wherever we're on, is sure one of those places. Get me through that tunnel. Yeah, this is beautiful. Where are you going to put the road? Put it underneath the other road. What are you talking about? Yeah, right here.
They opened in 2001. So they're actually the oldest ramen shop in the East Village.
Seriously?
Yes.
That's something. Considering you're only 12 years old, but that's the way New York is.
And they just opened this new spot last year, and they were getting their noodles from Japan. And I said, hey, I'm going to open a factory. Let me try to make something similar. And so he just gave me the opportunity to create a noodle for these guys.
We really want to give people the building blocks to build a great bowl of ramen. So therefore, we kind of broke it down to 5 elements. Noodles being one. That soup has broth, which is unseasoned liquid. Then the tare. That tare is the seasoning to give you the taste. And then the aromatic oils, final punch that gives you that more stereo effect. And finally, the 5th element is the toppings. That we garnish a beautiful bowl of ramen, and you see really the final touches of what the chef's story and what they're trying to convey to your customers. And within that simple bowl, there's this tremendous life story that the chef is trying to give.
I'm looking at the stock and I'm saying this is really cool. You've got scallions in here, garlic, onions, apples for sweetness and also for some pectin, for a little bit of thickness.
And chicken bone, pork bone, and one more thing, we have a whole chicken, the whole hen.
Whole hen in there, whole bird. Wow, that's good protein, a whole bird, man. The show is about ramen.
One other thing about ramen is, chefs really love it when you eat the ramen as hot as possible, the moment it's dropped in front of you.
It's so insane. And $10 for a meal like this, huh? I mean, this is for many people, I'm sure at night, this is dinner. In Japan now, just to give us some context, how many ramen places are there?
So we're estimating the number to be near 80,000.
Which is
the land.
way more than there are McDonald's around the world.
Yeah, the last time we checked, it was 28,000 McDonald's around the world, and you think 80,000 in the small archipelago land of Japan. So it's basically everyday food, but done really, really well for less than $10.
From playing jazz drums in Japan professionally to opening a ramen shop in the East Village, notch this one up to that old saw. Who knows what life has in store for us? You're Japanese, born and raised, and you taught yourself how to make broth. So you would eat ramen all around Japan, and then go home and think, how can I make that?
Right, many times back and forth. So then I still taste.
Right, sure. the heart of this ramen kitchen is this broth all the time. Stock is the big thing.
Right.
When you would go home and you would try and remember those flavors, every day you do this, every day.
Yeah.
All 24 hours almost. What do you have in here? What is this?
This is pork.
Pork. Jeez, look at the color of that. Boils this hard the whole time. And you've got backbones inside there?
Yeah, backbone. Only backbone.
Only backbones. Boiling like this for 12 hours.
Yeah.
Not good to put hot soup in a cold bowl.
Must be hot.
What's in here? Tell me a little bit about
This
this.
is garlic oil.
Garlic oil. Okay, the
Yes.
roast garlic oil.
Right. This is salt sauce. This is thin noodle.
How long did that cook? A minute?
No, about 30 seconds. Came to New York City. That's long time I missed my ramen, Kyushu style.
Garlic oil.
Yeah, like this. That's it.
Beautiful.
You like it?
You look at this bowl and you think, how smart if we ate like this, right? Broth is really good for you. Super healthy broth, full of protein. We have some pork, not a huge portion, but 1.5 ounces, 2 ounces. You've got meat, you've got vegetables, got some seaweed. That's a complete food. It's a complete meal, right?
Yeah.
Healthy, simple, inexpensive, fast. I mean, this is, when you think about it, ramen's kind of genius. Long day. We started in the morning in North Jersey, Teterboro. I got stuck on the turnpike, wasn't happy. Anyway, 2 stops. East Village, Manhattan, now we're on 14th Street, 14th and 1st. 14th is funny, man. They got guys selling books and used VHS tapes. Does anybody even have a VHS player anymore? I mean, can you play those things on new TVs? I don't know. But it is 14th Street. The guys behind me, I don't know what they're doing. They've been here pretty much for 3 hours sitting on stuff. People are coming to meet them. I've seen money exchanging hands. I don't know. I'm just saying. Could be anything. It is 14th and 1st. Anyway, next stop, Brooklyn. So load the gear up, hop in the car, shoot over some bridge. CHUKO, that's the next stop. Located in Prospect Heights on Vanderbilt Avenue in the shadows of the new Barclays Center sits one of the best ramen shops in the city, CHUKO, the brainchild of 3 chefs who hone their craft in the kitchen of Morimoto. Open 7 days a week for lunch and dinner, this is a great example of amazing New York ramen done right. You're one of the chefs.
Yes.
So 4 or 5 years in the kitchen of the great Morimoto, who is a phenomenally technically skilled, as sound as it gets, chef.
Yes.
And then you decide to leave that to do a ramen place. Why? I'm just curious.
You know, we wanted to do Japanese comfort food. We had a passion for it, and we knew there was a void here in Brooklyn. There was no. It's called craft ramen. You know, something where we're making everything from scratch. I think we achieved the idea of not just doing ramen, but like a ramen shop. We really became something for like this neighborhood. Every soup is made by the bowl. You know, we don't make a big pot of soup and just ladle it out. Everything's measured perfectly so that we can have a consistent bowl after bowl after bowl. Soup will go in, each soup will have its own tare, each soup will have its own fat, each soup will have its own noodle, and we just keep it that measured and simple, and controlled. This way we know the consistency is always spot on. We're gonna do one of our most popular, it's kimchi ramen. Okay, it's based on a pork bone broth.
The one that's boiled hard and cloudy?
The one that's boiled hard and cloudy,
Yeah.
really unctuous. You get all the bone marrow in there, really nice flavor. And then we made a tare, a seasoning that we flavored with.
Right.
I think it's like, it just gives it more of a mouthfeel. It kind of gives it that umami. It brings all those different flavors together. What's unique to this dish is rather than doing, roast pork belly or any type of grill protein, we serve ground pork. We flavor ground pork, again, with more Korean chilies and flavor. Yeah.
And this is unusual to see a submersion mixer in a restaurant like this.
Yeah.
It's like a modern touch. It's
This-
like, well, why not? That thing's so good for bringing flavors together. Why not?
Right. The soup won't split.
Right.
The fat emulsifies
Right.
into it, stays the whole time. We're going to add a little bit of our spicy oil. Again, we just like that little bit of fat that just floats up and bubbles
Little
at the top.
beads, and it'll give you a little heat in every bite.
Exactly. These two guys work together. As soon as his soup's ready, he gives him a heads up because each noodle, we use different noodles for every soup.
Which noodles this one get?
This is going to be the curly yellow noodle. It's a little thicker. We like the curls again because of all the different textures going on in the soup, the bits of kimchi, the scallion, the pork. We want that to kind of grab it.
Talk about the placement of the noodles. They're sort of folded in and over themselves.
If it was just thrown in, if you're grabbing your noodles, they're tangled. So you're picking up clumps of noodles.
Pick up the whole thing.
Whereas this, if it's laid in there nicely, you pick up the noodles
okay.
and they keep their integrity.
Okay.
So this is kimchi, some shredded cabbage, the scallion, and the egg. You still have your pork underneath. And this is all just going to come together as you eat it. Right?
That's crazy.
I call it our one non-traditional ramen. It's very traditional, you know, but it still does give us some freedom.
And I think with the ramen things, it's almost now, if we could sort of break away from the idea that if it's from Osaka, it's this style, and just look at it like a philosophy. Look at it like, let's use great ingredients, let's go local, let's get amazing noodles, but sort of break it down a bit.
We still hold true to the math, if you will.
Which is the stocks
You
are
know,
incredible.
the
They're
stocks,
all
the attention to the stocks, the
And
attention
these.
to the noodles, the
Right,
tares,
right.
the fats, the timing. We still have to, we can't step away from that.
I really love the feel of kind of where you're kicking this thing. The sort of idea of all this technique, all this talent, all this time you've spent, you know, between the three of you, 15 years in Morimoto's kitchen, and now let's do one supposedly simple thing, but let's just nail it.
That's the math. It's due every step of the way. When it's this simple, it has to be on. If it's not on, it's the difference between okay
Yeah.
and good to great, you know? But the quality now of having a noodle like made that week for us, a few days before we actually serve them, it's crazy.
Bespoke, and the idea that they can
Yeah.
specifically, you tell them exactly what you want, they'll make 15, 20 batches until they nail it, then they have the recipe. I mean, we were there, they got notebooks of recipes for each client.
Yeah.
That's the move right there, man.
If you ever needed a reason to trek out to lovely Teterboro, New Jersey, you have one now. By appointment, Sun Noodle does a ramen flight for up to 6 people, featuring a half dozen bowls of the best ramen you may ever have anywhere, prepared one after another in geographical sequence, south to north, by the young ramen master, Chef Nakamura.
Chef, where did you learn ramen? Is it when did you start getting hooked on the idea of ramen?
I just, my mother loved cooking, no restaurant, but she always use a chicken soup stock. That's my cooking soul or original. When I go to the College of the San Diego, I a lot of surfing.
Surfing, coming out of the water. Waves always broke good in the morning, then the wind knocks them down in the afternoon. You got to go to class.
So I need to warm up my body. So I keep making broth every day. I want to do something, make some kind of Japanese soul food. Yeah. So I had, you know, the technique of the making soup. So I just try make ramen, and people love it.
Bingo. And the rest is history.
Yeah.
For me, you know, just to meet Naka, I went out and I bought his books, I read about his philosophy, but now that, you know, I'm able to work with him, and again, he's teaching me a lot about what is standard, what is top in Japan. So whenever we go to customers, you would go and you'd measure the bricks of the soup, or how hard or how soft the water is, or he'd just be really a maniac. He has all these tools. For us as a noodle manufacturer is really to use that and connect with our customers.
So tell us what you have in mind today. We're going to do 4 different kinds.
Yes, the first 3 is basically our way of taking you through a historical guide of ramen and how ramen has evolved and changed throughout the years. Tokyo-style ramen has always been a chicken-based soup, and that's what we're having first. What you see Chef doing right now
what is he doing? Why squeezing?
It's temomi, which is basically hand kneading, and what he's doing is he's squeezing it so that you have these slight indentations, these imperfections, and as you're slurping, the texture and the way that it goes down your throat is very rustic, and we're enjoying that style of rustic noodle for the first dish.
Cool.
You notice when we rinse or we wring that water off of the noodles, there is that 1.5 to 2 second lag where the noodles are in shock and they're actually sucking in air. It dries out the outer core. The moment we put it back into the broth, soaks, and there's a seal that is created. Okay, so this is something that we feel you would have tasted in 1910. Just the soup, just the noodles. We have scallions, the white portions, a little bit on the sweeter side. The noodles are cooked perfectly.
It's just the noodles and the soup is because we want our customers to understand that if the noodles and soup can match, then anything you put on top will work.
This is a tonkotsu soup base, pork heavy, and you'll notice the noodles are now very straight, very white, and also very brittle. It doesn't have that same moisture content. Historically, this has always been the noodle used in the South.
You know, the aroma, the fragrance of this broth is great too. It's so, as soon as you put that up, you can smell that different. It's porky, it's different, it's got this wonderful body to it.
This final touch is what we call mayu. This is roasted garlic oil. In soups, we're never going to get that caramelization, right? It's a liquid. So in order to get that smokiness, that little primal aspect of human nature, we roast the garlics, put it into it, and infuse it in oil, and you have this roasted yet very hearty, unctuous ramen. And this is the Shio Tonkotsu ramen. That texture, you know, way different. It's almost brittle.
Not as nearly, chewy. Right, not as,
Not
the other
chewy.
one was really chewy, really worked differently in your tooth.
This third ramen that we're trying is credited to have developed in 1950 in Sapporo, northern part of Japan.
And I noticed this pork's from Mangalista, which is prized for its fat content.
Yes.
It's that long-haired, really funny-looking,
Yep.
kind of like hippie-looking pig that produces this really ridiculously fatty
Yeah, 3
meat.
inches. It's close to 3 inches of fat back.
It smells good.
Everything's cooked in the wok. The noodles are actually boiled, then placed into the bowls naked. Then the toppings and the soup is ladled in. You have basically, you know, piping hot, boiling soup right in front of you.
The noodles, we add much more water and we let it sit for 3 days in our factory, and that's going to make the gluten just come really hard. So as you're eating the hot broth, the noodles are still going to have that texture.
Yeah, this is a great noodle. This is insane. Great, chef. And thanks for putting that Mangalista in my bowl. I just ate it.
So this last dish we're calling New York Heritage Ramen, homage to all the Italian Americans out there. Using local New Jersey tomatoes,
Garden State.
Garden State, Italian fennel sausages, cremini mushrooms, and a tomato puree. And that itself gives you a very unique stance and take on ramen.
So, you know, Naka was saying, I want to make a local New York, New Jersey ramen. So he asked me to use local flour to make a noodle. So there's actually a flour miller like 20 minutes from here.
Seriously?
Yes, and they make really good noodle flour. And so we sourced a bag from these guys and just made this noodle today. So it's locally sourced milled flour from New Jersey in the noodles.
And that's pork fennel sausage and mushrooms. And basil.
Here we go.
Well, I'm really curious. I mean, we're going where I've never gone before. That's great. I love it, guys. Too cool.
Yeah, so ramen is a very, you know, I don't care of the location, the ingredients. Yeah, I can adjust the own, you know, their.
Makes sense. It becomes like a philosophy.
Yeah,
You know, rather than it being doctrinaire, it's a philosophy and that completely makes sense to me.
yeah, freestyle.
But it's borderless. There's really no strict rules. As long as you have the building blocks, you're understanding broth, noodle, topping, aroma oil, pare, and putting it all together. Our ultimate dream is to one day, maybe 10 years, 20 years down the road, have the general population say, you know what, I want some ramen, but today I feel more like a Brooklyn ramen as opposed to, you know, a Chicago ramen, if you will.
All right. Now you know about ramen, right? That was the whole point of this show. There's no way I'm cooking on the back end of this show. Chef cooked. Great, great, great recipes. Thanks so much. Thank you.
Thank you.
Now we got to get him surfing in the Rockaways or something.